Theresa Caputo, star of Long Island Medium, is the subject of a fresh scandal. Theresa was recently sued for fraud by Michael Mastrandrea, the spouse of her daughter Victoria Caputo. Following receipt of the allegation, officers moved swiftly to arrest Theresa Caputo and her son, Larry Caputo Jr., and transport them to the police station. Theresa's family experienced a lot of turmoil as a result of the occurrence. The police station, Theresa started crying. "Why would I go and take your money, Victoria? I have worked for you all my life. I wanted to see you happy," she remarked in a shaky voice, and the daughter's eyes were filled with tears. Theresa was shocked to learn that her own family had made such accusations. Once a cherished medium that moved people all over America, Theresa now faces an uncertain future where everything is up for debate, even celebrity and family. Theresa's attorney, meanwhile, stated that this case is the result of a personal conflict and misunderstanding. "Theresa is innocent. The truth will come out very soon," he continued, but the issue has already generated a lot of media attention. On social media, viewers and admirers are expressing their compassion for Theresa, and many are wondering why the family has broken down so badly. All eyes will be on the upcoming court hearing, which could reveal if Theresa Caputo is genuinely guilty or if she is just enduring a trying time. The October morning in Hicksville, Long Island was cool. Once a place of love, laughter, and the aroma of Sunday sauce simmering in the kitchen, the Caputo residence has grown uncomfortably quiet. Theresa Caputo, a Long Island Medium star, sat quietly in her living room with her trademark blonde hair in a loose bun and her eyes puffy from sobbing when the morning news broke the story. Long Island Medium star arrested in family fraud case. Just hours previously, the police had freed her on bond. She read the headlines that portrayed her as a villain while her hands shook as she flipped through her phone. Her heart was stabbed by every line. Psychic steals from daughter? Theresa Caputo betrays her own family? Larry Jr., her son, sat with his head in his hands across from her. "They believe we stole from Victoria and Michael," he replied quietly. "Do they actually believe that?" Theresa gulped forcefully, emotion ringing in her Long Island accent. "I have no idea how this happened, Larry. No cent that wasn't mine was ever taken by me. All I ever did was try to keep this family together, but in reality they had been gradually falling apart for months. It all began when Victoria and her husband, Michael Mastrandrea, introduced Caputo Glow, a new wellness business. Theresa had put her heart into it in addition to her money. She hoped her daughter would achieve success, emerge from her shadow, and establish herself. But the financing became complicated at some point. Michael alleged that significant sums of money had vanished without explanation after bank transactions for marketing charges were made under Theresa's business name. When the lawsuit arrived, it was more than simply a legal setback. It was a personal tragedy. Michael persuaded Victoria to file charges even though she had not wanted to. Police officers showed up at Theresa's front door on that fateful Wednesday after he warned her that, "We will lose everything if we don't stand up for what's right." As she was handcuffed and led into a patrol cruiser, neighbors were murmuring and cameras were already rolling. Theresa Caputo, the lady who claimed to be able to communicate with ghosts, was speechless for the first time in her life. Long Island was buzzing with rumors that evening. Social media reacted with both doubt and support as fans gathered outside the police station holding placards that read, "We believe in Theresa." Some referred to it as a misunderstanding, while others called it karma. Theresa sat in the harsh fluorescent lights of the police station, tears running down her cheeks. "Victoria, why would I go take your money?" she muttered when she was being questioned. Victoria stood outside the questioning room and sobbed quietly as she said, "I've worked my entire life for you, for this family." Through the window came her mother's voice. Theresa briefly wanted to speak up and say, "I believe you, Mom," but Michael restrained her by muttering, "Let the truth come out in court." Theresa avoided the spotlight for weeks, doing no readings, shows, or fan interaction. The formerly famous clairvoyant now sat at her dining table, surrounded by candles and rosary beads, and spent her days alone. Once teeming with spiritual vitality, her home felt deserted. Not even the ghosts spoke. If anyone up there can hear me, I need a sign, Theresa said into the darkness one night as the rain pounded outside. I must know that this is not the end. Then an odd event occurred. The rosary that her late mother had been keeping on a shelf by the kitchen window dropped to the ground. Theresa hurried over, gasping. Tears were streaming down her face as she took it up and held it close. "Ma," she muttered, "are you urging me to engage in combat?" She made the decision to persevere that evening. Porters crowded the courthouse on the day of the hearing. Theresa entered with her head held high, dressed simply in a black dress. Larry Jr. stepped next to her, holding her shoulder steadily. With her husband Michael's arm around her, Victoria sat at the opposite table, caught between loyalty and affection. Truth started to surface as the attorneys spoke. A rogue accountant who transferred money without permission, lost invoices, and poor communication all contributed to the fabrication of a fraud case. Paul Nardelli, Theresa's attorney, produced emails demonstrating that Theresa had, in fact, given Victoria money to keep her company afloat. There was silence in the courtroom. Victoria's revelation hit her like a wave, and her eyes widened. The judge's voice was firm when he finally spoke. "The evidence shows there was no intentional fraud. You are exonerated of all accusations, Mrs. Caputo." Reporters yelled and cameras flashed as the room erupted. However, Theresa was indifferent. All she could see was her daughter standing shakily across the room. Victoria muttered, "Mom." With tears streaming down her face, Theresa approached her. The two women sobbed into each other's shoulders while closely hugging. "I sincerely apologize," Victoria remarked. "I should have trusted you." "It's all right, darling," Theresa said quietly. Families break, but love brings them back. Even Michael, feeling ashamed and degraded, quietly apologized to Theresa. Fans applauded outside the courthouse when Theresa held out her hand and addressed the audience, saying, "I've always said spirits don't lie, and neither does the truth. I love my family, I forgive, and I go on," but Long Island had a cold Sunday afternoon. The sky was gray, the kind that held the hint of an impending storm as well as a serene quiet. Theresa Caputo had just finished a private reading at a community center in her area. These sessions always left her feeling spiritually fulfilled but emotionally exhausted. Before going home, she made the decision to get a coffee. But she still had half of her mind in the spirit realm. She was reminded of an impending charity event by a text message from her assistant Victoria as she was leaving the parking lot in her white SUV. Theresa gave it a fleeting glance. However, that second was sufficient. And then, crash! It was a deafening sound. At the crossroads, her car had struck another car. For a few seconds, everything was quiet except for the distant roaring in her ears as the airbags detonated and the surroundings became hazy. She was startled, definitely, but alive, she realized when she was able to focus again. With her heart racing, she staggered out of the car and noticed a man getting out of the other car while clutching his arm in agony. His eyes were big, his face was pallid, and he appeared to be in his late 40s. With tears welling up in her eyes, Theresa hurried over to him. "My goodness, I'm so sorry. Are you all right? I didn't see the light shift. Let me call someone, please." The man leaned against his automobile and gave a slow, wincing nod. "I think I'm okay, but my arm hurts, but I'll live." Flashing lights immediately filled the scene as the police were called. As Theresa made her statement, her hands trembled and her chest was crushed with remorse. The words, the distraction, and the crash sound were all replayed incessantly. Normally, she was connected, cautious, and grounded, but today something had gone wrong. When everything had calmed down later that night, Theresa sat by herself in her living room. Her heart felt heavy, and she was unable to get rid of it. Even though the accident wasn't terrible, she was plagued by guilt. She closed her eyes, lighted a candle, and muttered, "Spirit, I must comprehend. What caused this to occur? What am I expected to discover?" She then experienced the tingling warmth and the well-known surge of energy that always comes before a connection. From the silence, a voice appeared to mutter, "Theresa, today he needed you to stop." She gave a quiet gasp. Who's there? Like a breeze passing through her spirit, a soft presence permeated the space. She saw a young, gorgeous woman with a gentle smile in her mind's eye. The woman exuded a serene yet strong spirit. The spirit said, "My name is Emily. I am his spouse. The Mark is the man that was involved in the collision. He lost me in a similar accident to the one that happened today 3 years ago. He was never forgiven. He has been harboring guilt for something he had no control over every single day. Theresa, the crash today wasn't about you. It was to make him feel at peace." Theresa murmured, "Oh my God. I don't even know how to make this right," as tears fell down her face. Emily's spirit reassured her, "You will. The bridge is you. Let him know I'm all right. Advise him to pardon himself. He has spent far too much time in that agony." Theresa called the man Mark the following morning. After receiving treatment for a minor wound, he was discharged from the hospital. His voice was low and strained as he answered, seeming uncertain. "Theresa, from yesterday's accident, Mark. I realize this may sound odd, but I think you need to hear something, so I'm not just phoning to apologize." The line remained silent for a moment, and then there was a soft sigh. "Continue." Theresa paused. "I am a medium. I have a connection with departed souls. Additionally, I think your wife reached out to me last night. Emily is her name, correct?" Mark's breath seized in his throat. "What do you know about that?" "To me, she revealed herself. She said that you've never forgiven yourself and that she died in an accident 3 years ago. She wants you to be aware of her well-being. Mark, she doesn't hold you responsible. She had been pleading with you to let go, but you were unable to hear her. That is the reason why yesterday occurred. Spirit planned it so that I could convey her message." Mark was silent for a long time. Then he broke off. "For weeks, I've been having dreams about her. It's always the same dream. She's watching me from the side of the road. Cry when I wake up. I believed I was losing my mind." Theresa whispered, "You weren't." She was attempting to connect. "And now that she knows you will be too, she is at last at rest." That moment, Mark sobbed into the phone. "Thank you, Theresa. Thank you. Even if I didn't believe in all of this, I sense it. I sense her." Theresa shed a lot of tears herself. Spirit can occasionally bring confusion before clarity. Yesterday's events weren't only a coincidence. Timing was perfect. Weeks went by. The impact of that day went well beyond glass or metal, even after the insurance documents were resolved and the cars were fixed. Later that month, Mark attended one of Theresa's group readings. Emily delivered once more, brilliant and strong, when it was his turn. With a soft smile, Theresa repeated Emily's last words. "Tell him to live. To resume driving. To chuckle once more. I'm there by his side the entire time." Mark grinned despite his tears. "I'm grateful, Emily. And I'm grateful, Theresa. You not only struck my car, but you also struck my heart and made it whole again." Theresa stood outdoors in the moonlight after the event. She said to herself, "Spirit works in mysterious ways," while the breeze stroked her golden hair. "Even via errors sometimes." She replied gently, "Thank you, Emily," as she walked to her car and gazed up at the sky, experiencing that comforting warmth once more. "I'm grateful that you transformed my guilt into grace." And a soft light flickered there in the invisible, a grateful grin from a spirit. But the Long Island fall afternoon was windy. As Theresa Caput, the renowned Long Island medium, got ready for another poignant reading, the golden leaves danced across the peaceful streets of Hicksville. She was informed by her staff that today's customer was a unique individual, a celebrity she had grown up watching on screen but had never met in person. What's his name? The 34-year-old actor Jonathan Lipnicki, who was the child star of Stuart Little and Jerry Maguire, nevertheless exudes a feeling of thankfulness for life and childlike charm. Jonathan was a couple of minutes early. He had on trousers, a black jacket, and a tense smile. Long Island medium cameras silently followed him as he entered Theresa's house, recording everything. "Hey, my love." Theresa welcomed him with the warmth that characterizes Long Island. "You look precisely the same, my God. Simply taller." Jonathan gave a shy laugh. "Theresa, thank you. Since I've been watching your show for years, I honestly wasn't sure if I was prepared for this kind of event." "Honey, your soul is ready because you're here," Theresa whispered softly, resting a hand on his shoulder. "Spirit is aware of when to call you in. All right, let's see who steps forward." A framed picture of angels gleamed softly in the corner, candles flickered, and the room's vibe started to change as they both sat down at the table. Theresa's eyes were closed. "All right, immediately, Jonathan, I sense a strong maternal presence. I'm feeling like a grandmother to this woman as she moves forward. Very traditional, sweet, but powerful. Tell my boy I still watch his movies in heaven," she says repeatedly. Jonathan's gaze expanded. "My goodness, that's her. My grandmother Rose is that. She used to say that I would always be her little movie star, regardless of how big I got." Theresa nodded and grinned. "She's giggling. She shows me a TV and some popcorn, and she claims to be sitting with your grandfather watching Stuart Little repeatedly. Honey, she's so proud of you. However, she is also discussing a recent event such as a significant choice you made. Something to do with your job or even your heart." Jonathan instantly became emotional and leaned forward. "In fact, I was considering giving up acting. I've been having self-doubt issues. I reasoned that perhaps it was time to move on and try something new." Theresa gave a little gasp. "Oh dear, that's the reason she's here." "No way," is what your granny is saying. "She wants you to know you were destined for this, which is why she's giving me a lot of attention. He brings joy to others, and that's his purpose," she explains. The eyes of Jonathan filled with tears. "She sounds just like that. Before school plays, she would sit with me and say, 'You've done your job if you make one person smile.'" Theresa felt the emotion rush through her as she nodded. "She's also bringing up a blue blanket, which you may have taken from her home." Jonathan covered his mouth as he gasped once again. "I have it still. She knitted me a blue blanket when I was 6 years old. I store it in my wardrobe. I was unable to discard it." Despite her tears, Theresa smiled. "Honey, she is aware. She shows me you sitting on your bed with it, thinking about her, and she says, 'Stop crying, my boy, I'm right there.' She also says, 'Every time you touch that blanket, that's me wrapping my arms around you.'" The room fell silent for a moment. The air was calm but heavy. Theresa then started to sway a little, speaking in a quiet but confident tone. "Jonathan, she's also showing me a piano. Was she a musician?" "Indeed," Jonathan cried out. "She played jazz tunes from the past. She would hum the song instead of using her fingers more as she grew older." Theresa gave a nod. "Honey, she's humming now. She claims that even now, when you're feeling low, she still sings with you. That's her, even though you might think it's just a tune that keeps playing in your head." Jonathan shook his head in shock and wiped his eyes. "This is amazing. I had assumed that I might only be imagining her voice, but now it feels real once more." Theresa gave a gentle smile. "She's mentioning your mother as well. Telling her that she's doing a wonderful job of keeping the family together is what she wants. According to your grandma, she is aware that life hasn't been simple since her death." Jonathan gave a silent nod. "It was quite difficult for my mom. Her best buddy was Granny." "She is aware," Theresa remarked. "She claims to frequently see your mother. Does your mother have a photograph of a flickering flame that she shows me?" Jonathan's mouth fell open. "Indeed. Every Sunday she lights a candle near her picture. That's exactly what it is." Theresa gave a little laugh. "That's Granny coming to see, honey, not just your mom remembering her." "I'm right here, sweetheart," she says whenever the spark flickers irrationally. Jonathan buried his face in his hands and cried softly. Theresa's consoling words blended with the sound of his weeping, enveloping the scene in love and warmth. A few minutes later, Theresa spoke once again. Jonathan, she's also making a comment on forgiveness. Does she want you to forgive yourself for missing something? Jonathan choked up and nodded. She passed away when I was filming abroad. I was unable to bid them farewell in person. I've been plagued by that for years. Theresa spoke softly as she leaned closer. You were right where you needed to be, she says. I didn't want it to be how you saw me. She's giving you a hug, honey. I wanted you to remember me smiling, not suffering. She is calm. After taking a big breath, Jonathan managed to smile despite his tears. I'm amazed at how therapeutic this is. I feel lighter. She seemed to be speaking directly to me. Theresa smiled, her face illuminated by that familiar radiance. My dear, that is the lovely aspect of spirit. They simply alter their communication style. They don't actually die. Love never dies. It merely changes. Jonathan's eyes were bright as he nodded slowly. Theresa, thank you. You have no idea how much this means to me. Theresa covered his hand with hers. Jonathan, you showed courage today. You arrived. She was able to get in touch with you as a result. She is observing every sight, every smile, and every small moment, so get out there and make her proud. Jonathan stopped and gazed up at the sky as he stepped out into the refreshing afternoon sun. Granny Rose was undoubtedly grinning too, humming her favorite song, muttering softly, That's my boy, somewhere above, out of sight. Theresa grinned to herself inside the Caputo house and muttered, Another lovely soul helped. She then turned to face the ceiling and added, half-jokingly, half-sincerely, Granny Rose, you were amazing on camera, honey. As if in response, the candles flickered once. But Long Island Medium. Season 5 was just getting started, and it was the height of summer on Long Island. Back on set was Theresa Caputo, the larger-than-life medium with the enormous blonde hair and even greater heart. Her nails were done flawlessly, her bracelets jingled, and she exuded an energy that was like electricity. However, this season felt a little different. The crew's theme for the upcoming season was closure, tears, and truth, but before long everyone, from the guests to the cameramen, started making fun of it by referring to it as Season 5, but it's just Theresa making people cry. Because each and every episode concluded in the same manner, with tissues flying, tears flowing down someone's face, and Theresa consoling yet another soul that had been shattered by words from the other side. A tiny firehouse on Long Island served as the location for the first filming. Danny Russo, a rugged, tattooed firefighter, was the visitor. 2 years prior, Joey, his best buddy and fellow firefighter, had perished in a factory fire. Before Theresa entered the room, he had never discussed it in public. She froze in the middle of greeting. Oh my God, do you know a Joey, Danny? She gripped her chest and asked. I couldn't get out, but tell him I wasn't scared, he says as he shows me a lot of smoke. Danny's mouth clenched. His eyes became glossy. My partner was that, he muttered. He failed to show up. Theresa touched his arm with a manicured hand. Oh my God, he says to tell you to stop blaming yourself and that he's still keeping an eye on your station. You accomplished everything correctly. Danny buried his face in his hands as he broke down entirely. Slowly, the camera zoomed in, capturing each quivering tear. Theresa also dabbed at her eyes. You see? I'm crying now because of you. She chuckled softly as she spoke. One of the cameramen mumbled, First shoot of the season and already half the room is crying, as the crew dispersed that evening. Yes, Season 5 will be quite harsh. Theresa then went to a nearby park in Smithtown where a woman named Carol fed birds every day while sitting on a dilapidated bench. In loving memory of Frank, my forever love was inscribed on a bronze plaque on the bench. Waves of emotion went through her as Theresa drew closer. Did your husband bring you coffee in the mornings, Carol? She added quietly. Carol blinked, startled. For 40 years every day, she answered. Theresa gave a soft smile. He is displaying a cup to me. He adds he misses making fun of you for your crossword puzzles, and it reads, "You're my favorite pain in the butt." Carol gasped at that. Oh my God. That's what he always said. Theresa's tone then changed. You must stop weeping for him while you're sitting on this bench, he adds. I'm not gone. I'm right next to her every morning, he asserts. Carol clutched her heart and started crying hysterically. I simply miss him terribly. Theresa's eyes also filled. Carol, you're going to bring me to tears once more. But love never dies, that's what it does. For 15 minutes, the team had to stop shooting as everyone collected themselves. We should have brought a box of tissues per episode, the assistant director said in a whisper to another crew member while sniffling. Theresa met Jason, a 28-year-old man who said that mediums were total nonsense, in one of the season's most poignant readings. Jason's mother had scheduled the appointment behind his back. He refused to participate and sat with his arms folded. Theresa inhaled deeply. All right, so I'm seeing a young man who died suddenly. He claims to have been your brother or a relative. Jason gave an eye roll. There was no brother for me. Theresa's face became softer. That's what I used to call him, he says, smiling while pointing to a bicycle and sneakers. Jason stopped. Mark, a boyhood buddy, had passed away at the age of 16 in a bicycle accident. He's saying you stopped riding after he passed, Theresa said. Tell him it wasn't his fault, he says. I wasn't keeping an eye on the vehicle. Jason crushed his face. He coughed. Oh my God. That day I was meant to be with him. I warned him that I would be late. His face was wet with tears. He said that. He whispered. Theresa gave a nod. Stop punishing yourself, he says. He claims that as soon as he departed from this life, he forgave you. When the reading was over, Jason gave Theresa such a strong hug that even she broke down in tears. I swear, every time I think I won't cry, Theresa gets me again, the cameraman murmured to the producer. Theresa was approached by a mother named Eileen who was holding her son's dog tags tightly. 5 years prior, her son Michael had lost his life in Afghanistan. Even before Eileen said a word, Theresa felt a tremendous pressure in her chest. Theresa remarked, He's showing me a white rose, heat and sand. Tell Mom I kept my promise, he says. Eileen's mouth quivered. What assurance? Theresa hesitated. I promised you I'd get home safely, he says. I didn't, but I did return home differently. Eileen started crying. He's showing me you kept his room the same, Theresa muttered, covering Eileen's hands. He says that changing it now is acceptable. He desires your survival. The audio technician even took a step back and wiped his eyes. I swear, this season it's not even readings anymore. It's therapy with tears, Theresa lamented to her producer at the end of the day. A crowded community center hosted the finals. Theresa was in front of 30 visitors, all of whom had suffered losses. Within minutes of the group reading, there were gasps, tears, and laughter around the room. One woman's late father told her that he continued to dance with her during the wedding song. As Theresa delivered a word from his grandmother, a teenage lad broke down in tears. She says you can stop sleeping with her blanket now. She is pleased that you are attending college. When Theresa replied, Your wife says she's proud you finally cooked something edible, a burly man started crying. By the conclusion, everyone was crying, hugging, or both, including Theresa. Producer stood in front of everyone, laughing through tears as the crew wrapped up for the season. This season is about Theresa making everyone cry, but we thought it would be about closure, he said. Theresa held a box of tissues like a trophy as she laughed, her mascara streaked. Hey, I'm proud to be the reason if crying leads to healing, she winked. The cameras turned off and the lights went down, but the room's electrifying, loving spirit persisted. Theresa sipped tea by herself in her kitchen later that evening. The refrigerator's hum was the only sound in the house. She muttered, You see, Ma, as she gazed at a framed picture of her deceased parents, I brought them back to tears. She grinned to herself. It wasn't really about crying because she knew. It has to do with release, about getting better, about demonstrating that, despite individuals dying, love endures forever. The Long Island moon shone brightly and low outside, and somewhere beyond the veil, spirits must have been smiling as well, pleased with the woman who could transform suffering into tranquility, one tear at a time. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Mina and I hope you're having a great day. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the video.